purple underwear before, Calvin.
Why do you keep calling me Calvin?
That is your name, isn't it? Calvin Klein? It's written all over your underwear.
Let's see how this thing does. Call at 4. That's right. Email is a terrible thing. Pretty sure I did that. And by email is a terrible thing, I mean email is called upon to do too much for us. I worked for a monitoring company. And part of what our selling point was email is not a monitoring system, because people are like, well, I'll just get an email sent to me and then I'll know, the status, which you could do with pretty much any tool. You could do it with MRTG if that's even still a thing. But email becomes this catch-all. And it's a poor way to handle everything. Well, a catch-all is a poor way to handle anything, really. You want things to be a little bit more targeted and specifically made. So the question then becomes, what is the correct way to email? And I would argue to email as little as possible, or to so heavily divide your email into automated, folder filters that you don't even see the stuff that you don't need to deal with. At least don't need to deal with immediately. Fair warning though, if you do that, you will find that you wind up in this situation where you're actually not even, like, 2 months goes by and then you're like, oh, remember that time I used to get those emails? Oh yeah, I'm still getting them. I just haven't read them for 2 months. Let me check audio levels here real quick. Folder filters. Sounds great. That you don't even see. Nice. Yeah. And then, I don't know. I mean, I guess technically that's a good place to be, because then you force yourself into this box where you're like, alright, I literally haven't read any of these emails for 2 months. Unsubscribe. And there's some things that, you know, you want to bring it up to your attention so that you can skim it, or it's almost serving as a reminder to you that, hey, this company exists. So we ask for different things from our emails. Oh, I'm not sure I'm filtering actually. Oh no, you can see my IP address, which you can get by going to troyfledger.com. Where are we? No, I'm not sure you can see it. Not even the compression, but just like getting it to that point. I haven't heard this song in a while. This is a slightly new. I think the color gets washed out with this. With the sharpness, depending on how much. Color doesn't get washed out, it just gets amplified. Alright. Good enough. Right, so email gets into this weird, email gets to be this weird intersection of things. And then if you, like, it stops being a useful to-do system very quickly. Very quickly. And when that happens, the question becomes, what is it? And that is the right question to ask. The point is that most people don't ask it. Low key. Massdrop. I don't know. Massdrop has to have a pretty impressive offering. Oh no, this is Pimp My Keyboard. Oh. I like PMK. Of good quality. Good quality. I don't know. Never was one for making the keyboard look pretty. Should probably change that since I sell these, but I got some blank PBT caps for $15.50 from Geek Keys. It's probably all it's going to be for a long time. Pretty sure about that. Right. I don't want to say I'm kind of waking up, but I'm still kind of waking up. I just don't want to say it. RGB LED Wi-Fi strip lighting? It's interesting. At least for something that's already pre-made and pre-packaged, I expect Massdrop will be able to deliver. You know, I expect it, but who knows? Oh hey, look! It's who we were talking about on the last stream. The Mistral Barocco something or other. But this is the MD600, which I'm assuming makes it, it's $150 bucks? It's the same off Amazon. Oh, Massdrop. Now this one has colors, so perhaps it is a $10 reduction in price for the mere cost of possibly not getting what you want. Alright, that's enough Massdrop. Garbage. So this customer is owed an email. Yeah. Of course, don't call how overdue is this customer? I really wish I could grok Space Max sufficiently. There we go. Sufficiently to make. Oi. Oi. There we go. Sufficiently to make tweaks to it. But I can't. Two, three, four, that's what? It's 1, 2, 3. Like 6 hours behind. Time-wise, monetarily wise, that's not a big deal. Still need to schedule this at least. That was not a thing I was at all prepared to deal with. My first business, or rather partnership venture, with a very good friend of mine, with whom I was very afraid of souring the relationship based on the business. Just because stuff happens, it's business. But our problem, among things that were problems with me, but one of the problems was you expect customers to pay their bills. And apparently that's asking a lot. Ah, yes. parent skip? It's jump something? No, that's not it. Table row. Man, what is it? When you Google so badly. I'm pretty sure I'm just trailing off here. Go to, there we go. Go to heading, that's what it was. Parent heading. There we go. GJGK. There we go. Now we're skipping. How many layers down am I? Based off subtree. Back to heading. Outline. GH. Oh, those are my Vim keys. Cool. So GH, G, nice, intuitive. Just not intuitive to me for whatever reason. That's too far. Go back. To learn this stuff. Yeah, there we go. That's right. That's already built. What am I doing with this thing? That's the wrong thing. I'm trailing off incessantly. It never even occurred to me that getting customers to pay their bills was an issue. And apparently it's like this game that it's like this game that's played in most industries, I guess. It's like, we'll invoice you. Like, I'll send you the invoice, and then this song and dance ensues in many cases, where it's like, this invoice is on white paper. We specifically noted in the contract that it needs to be on light canary. Oh, sorry about that. Here it is on yellow. Actually, we said light canary. I'm gonna go find light canary. Print it up. Here's your invoice on light canary. This is light canary hammer mill. The light canary is actually the other paper company that we're talking about. It's a completely different shade. Doesn't work with our I don't want to say Xerox machines. our copier machines. Alright, why don't you just give me a part number for the paper to buy? Oh, well, that's not our job. We don't want dedicated resources to that. Like, and then in the meantime, 6 months have passed. I don't know. Maybe it's worse among bigger business, but I just never really expected it to be a case for smaller businesses like myself. And don't get me wrong, I have great customers. They just get busy, and I understand that. But at the time, we had, in that business, we had customers that would play that game a little bit. And for a smaller business, it's easy to run out of cash flow just waiting on bills to be paid. Waiting on invoices to be paid, rather. Bad place to be. Where are we? Good on audio. Sounds good. And the keyboard's not blowing out the audio, so that's nice. That is a problem. My keyboard is too loud. This keyboard is too loud. My spoon is too big. Right, so I owe... Well, that's what I was talking about. I owe this customer an email. 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. my time. Oh! That's actually kind of a problem. This is a good mix. Like vomit describe. Right. This is my follow-up call. 22 minutes. Good. And what was it, 5:58? Yeah, I guess that's about right, 6 hours. So I need to generate a new time record, which is report. Nice, nice. That's at 10 hours, which means I'm at about 4 hours over. Okay. Tracking your time is important. He said, obviously. Shoot. Alright. Well, I just need to generate this. Oh. Gosh, I probably should have brought this up. What? Oh. Nope, nope, nothing like that. Let's get into this. Yeah, that's what I thought. did I make that a backslash? Good heavens. That's not right either. Green. Weird. Sorry, just trying to update my notes here. I gotta buckle down, start a Pomodoro. That means I've scheduled 3 o'clock. Put it at 3:30. Too much coffee last night. Do all of your text editing in Vim. Right. To do. Oh man, it's like I know what I'm doing. It's like I know me. How's that? It's easier to govern. It's easier to govern a city than to govern yourself. Rule a city or then rule yourself. Maintaining my focus can be difficult, so I write exact notes to myself to make it as easy as possible on myself, but I still get stuck in these morning wake-up routines. All I have to do is read. Call here on Monday. Let's meet 3 p.m. Central Standard Time to talk about Facebook API token creation. I also have another note here that has completely out of context the word missing. It's the totality of the note missing. Not sure if the note is missing or if I was supposed to add more to that. Create a blank space for high value hard websites and output file. Oh, okay. Alright, let me send this email first because it'll be easier. This kind of counts as a break time. Time-wise it does. I don't feel like I've gotten enough done to take a break, but maybe that's the problem. Right, break time. Hope I'm not boring the pants off someone right now. No one watching. Yeah, so break time. that off. Create blank space for high-value hard websites in the output CSV. Thread like this one. One of the other benefits of doing all your text editing in a separate editor, aside from being nice and comfy in your favorite text editor, is that if you're writing an email, you don't accidentally keyboard shortcut send that email prematurely. That might just be my problem. I get into issues of muscle memory where I'm like, yeah, it's good enough, and then I pound, what is it, Control Enter? It's either Control Enter or Tab Space. You send it because you use the key, you learned the keystroke, and you're just like, yeah, automatic. So you can't do that in a separate text editor. You're not even in the email program. Just happened. Weird.
Over there.
Initializing startup sequence.
About that? Yeah, you can see it.
Loading. 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 All systems will go. Please enjoy your stay. All systems will go. Please enjoy your stay.
an email. Gosh. Yep. What is it? Control G? No, it still catches Control G. That's weird. Really? There we go. Bit of a mess, that. Look at the meeting. So it's 6:30. I've got some graphical work and development work. That's kind of abstract. I'm probably in a good mood for that. I just feel like this got super bright. Like I said, too much coffee last night. This whole morning feels off. Still got work done. Gave this thought, and we'll probably end up with the Iris. Like you said, I need to grow with my keeb. I don't like keeb. Tool. Yeah. Yeah, good to hear. The other cool thing about the Iris is you can get into one for relatively inexpensive, provided you, well, if you don't already have keycaps. Keycaps are always kind of a problem just because they're so expensive. You can get some pretty good generics. My recommendation is OEM Profile or Cherry. They're about the same. OEM Profile. No DSA, obviously. But DCS I found is even kind of low profile for me. Like I notice it when I switch to something like that. I can also tell you that my Iris, I guess this is multiples, my Iris R running, Pimp My Keyboard, G80, QWERTY caps, which you can get for like $10, something like that. It's a good price, very good price. Already got keycaps, very good. Yeah, that's the way to do it. This is actually the keyboards, these blanks that I got. These are like the first keycaps that I've bought for my use in a very long time, because I've been transplanting those QFR keys for years. It was weird taking them off because, yeah, I've been running them so long. They're ABS, but they got such shine on them, and I can't even imagine how many keystrokes these guys have on them. But they sound good and they feel good. They're PBT as well, which means the shine should be reduced, but we'll see how much mileage I really get out of that, because PBT does shine, it just takes longer and the shine is duller. It's kind of funny to think about that. Like, I got little fleshy mandibles here, fleshy metacarpals here, and I'm just rubbing them against a piece of plastic, and no matter what it is or how hard it is, I'll eventually wear through it. Although this zinc-coated key, that sound is very satisfying. The zinc-coated key is probably the one that'll last the longest. If I wear through that, I should see a doctor or something. Also want the acrylic. Yeah, the external plates are kind of an interesting thing. They do have a plate that I really like. I thought was a great design. It has like those openings for screws for mounting, screws for tenting. Where are we? It's just the, here we go. And I don't remember if they were selling them, yeah, or if it was just plans. Because I saw some builds that had it, but I didn't see a specific sale of it. I actually had plans to kind of put together build a case that matched that design, because I didn't think it went far enough. Maybe it was here. No. This had to be where I saw the picture of it. Dang. Maybe he removed it because he didn't have the actual case parts. I'm not sure how to describe it. Is it? There it is. So let's see here. Bingo. Was that a window share? No, we'll put it over here then. Sorry, this is a slow morning. I'm just like confused. This is an interesting delay that's occurring. There we go. There we go. So you can see that the case has these little acrylic pieces that stick out that are designed to hold screws, so that you can make little screw tenting bits. And I couldn't find those on their website or on the Keeb website, but that's a really thick acrylic. That's like a 0.44 or something, like it's half an inch. But that's a cool way of doing screw tenting, because with those little things sticking out the sides, you can very easily put in a half-inch screw and then start, you screw further into the material to increase the tenting, and you screw back out. You put a nut on either side and you just screw back and forth in order to adjust how tented everything is. It's infinitely adjustable, and you can put, I'd recommend getting like Sugru or something like that. You could probably get away with hot glue, but putting something on the end to create some friction on the desk surface. But that's like infinitely adjustable. Great way of doing the tenting. There's more to talk about implementing that, but not right now. Suffice to say, that's a cool design I really like, but I haven't built it yet, and it's not available for sale for the Iris, so I had thought pretty seriously about making one for myself, because he has the parts, or rather the SVGs available, so it's relatively easy to cut, something like that. So that might be something of value that I work on. Yeah, the acrylic with the tenting, no exterior plate. Pre-order with the stainless steel, yeah. SMD, surface mount diodes. I thought if you can solder, the difference between surface mount diodes and regular diodes, through-hole diodes, is pretty simple. It's pretty hard to mess up through-hole diodes. So I wouldn't worry too terribly about that. I would go for the through-hole diodes only to save the money. One of my favorite things about this design, or at least this split, for the Iris, was that you can get into it very, very easily for very relatively inexpensively, especially if you already have the keycaps. I think it was $38 or $34 to buy the PCB and cables. Yeah, I just bought 2 PCBs, the cables, 2 Pro Micros was $13 or something like that, and they're knockoff Pro Micros. But the thing to be very careful about, very, very careful about when building your Iris is the orientation and your Pro Micro mounting, because if you screw up the soldering on your microprocessor, those header pins, man, desoldering that it's so much not fun. They should make a new word for it. Plus, if you do it wrong, you can ruin the board. So I would go very, very, very slow. Measure twice, cut once. Plan out your moves. Read through the instruction manual. And that was another moderate complaint I had about the Iris. The build log. There's 2 or 3 versions of the build log. Read them all and understand where they intersect. Because there's stuff that's covered in one that's not covered in the other. It's not a very complete build log, and it doesn't apply to the most recent builds. But the one that does skips over some steps, so be very careful when assembling it. But if you can, and if you go slow and you take your time, you're good. You're golden. The alternative is to get one of those contact mounts for Pro Micros, which basically makes it so that you can take your Pro Micro, solder the header pins on, which is easy, and then it makes like a friction, like a breadboard fit. You solder that socket onto your PCB, and then you can take your Pro Micro and just stick it right on. And if it's the wrong way, or if you have to do it a different way, or the orientation's weird, you just pull it right off. It's like a friction contact. It's like a breadboard. But definitely a good way of handling it. PCB and acrylic in between, yeah. Case and switches later on. Yeah, and if you really want to, and you don't like your old keyboard, or you want to go like all in on this Iris, desolder it. Desolder the old keyboard. My poor QFR, my Cooler Master Quickfire Rapid. That thing's a messy PCB and an empty case, just a frame. Because I pulled everything off of it. Everything that was of use I pulled off of it, starting with the keycaps. But like I said, I'm cheap. I also like making use of what I have. At this point, I entertain the notion, like, I kind of wish I had a QFR for old time's sake, but I just wouldn't use it. I wouldn't have a use for it. Except to, like, hang on the wall or something. Which I do already hang a lot of things on the wall. Maybe I'll put the PCB back in the case and drill straight through it, mount it to the wall. It's an art piece. Yeah, just go slow during that assembly process for the Iris. But congrats, you know, that's a good it's a good decision to make when you challenge yourself. It's always a good decision to make when you challenge yourself. Alright. Yeah, I don't know. All of this is very weird. That people are interested in my thoughts and actually care what I think. Obviously, I'm adding some level of value here, but I devalue myself in it. I don't regard it as very valuable, but obviously the facts indicate otherwise. So, glad to be of service. Besides, if someone is more productive, they create more, they get more done, and they have more free time. Builds, what is it, grows the pie gets bigger, more work gets done, more people are happier overall. Just make sure that when you do start building to your objectives and your specifications, and when you do start creating tools that allow you, and I'm emphasizing you, to get your work done faster, that you don't cast pearls before swine. I have a philosophical problem with the 40-hour work week, insofar as it applies in corporate America. I am, in many regards, an automation specialist, and when I'm offered a task with the warning that, you know, this thing is going to take 8 hours, see ya. The idea that this work is going to take 8 hours to complete, and I automate it and get it so that it takes half an hour to complete or 1 hour to complete, I am not rewarded with 7 hours. I forget which economist figured this out. British economist. He said that work tends to expand to the time allotted, which means y'all just wasting time, and we are. But it's this weird understanding that, well, I'll pay you for hours worked, and this might be uniquely American, but I'll pay you for hours worked so long as you work hard during them. And then for someone such as myself who automates things, you can get to the point where I can get to a point where I'm providing the service of several employees with my automation, with my workflow optimization. But the answer is always, great, but what have you done for me lately? Like, I could be adding 80 hours of value to my 40 hours. I could be providing 120 hours of value, of output, I should say, per week. But if you look bored doing it, then who cares? I have automated myself out of several jobs and recognize that it's not really right or fair, as loaded of a word as fair is. So, work for yourself. Optimize workflow and get more work done for yourself. If I were someone who worked from home or required to work from home, and the output that I provided was 40 hours, and the input that I gave was 10 hours, what's the difference to my employer? Functionally nothing. It feels weird to finish your work 7 hours early and then be bored sitting at your desk for the remaining 7 hours. But in corporate America, it's somewhat expected of you. And you're punished for not doing that. Which doesn't seem right. So, optimize your workflow and work for yourself. Improve yourself, measure yourself. Don't waste time. Don't pad hours. The more hours you get back. There's a book called The 4-Hour Workweek. The 4-Hour Workweek. Highly recommend it. It's the source of this paradigm shift in my thinking. So, when you get that keyboard, and when you start automating tasks, and when you start getting your work done in a third the amount of time it previously took, just remember that that free time is not necessarily viewed as a good thing by your employer. So, if you start to look bored, if you start to seem a little too available, then you seem lazy. It doesn't matter what your output is. Like I said, I think this is a uniquely American thing. And I'm conflicted with it because I'm an American. And the origin of my thought process is, well, do work. And if you do work, then you're of value, but that's not even necessarily true. Because you can do busy work. And I hate busy work. So, when you start optimizing your workflow and you start to realize, I've got a lot of free time, you need to make a decision as to either how you're going to look busy or how you are going to use something like the 4-Hour Workweek and the recommendations that are built into that book. Like, seriously, buy that book. That's a great book. To get yourself broken away from the corporate culture. Because the culture's, I don't want to say toxic, but something like that. The culture is broken, I should say. And by breaking away from that, still providing the same service, your employer is still happy because you're providing 40 hours of output, irrespective of the amount of hours of input that you put into it, and you get that time back. your life is better for it. If your employer is happy with the 40 hours of output that you provide, and your input is 10 hours, you've got an extra 30 hours of life that you can live. Heck, even an extra 20 hours of life that you can live. Whether you want to devote that to your own personal private projects, whether you want to devote it to, building a customer base and freelancing, or just browsing Facebook. It doesn't matter. Just understand that time, try to get that time back. Your life will be better for it. But just break down break that connection between input and output for your employer. Yeah. Automate either the infrastructure or the workflows. Yeah. Just workflow automation and workflow improvement is paramount. Really just paramount. But keep track of how much time you're really saving. Like I said, I've automated myself out of several jobs with the possibly American notion that, well, if I work hard enough and people will take notice and they'll be understanding and appreciative of the amount of time that I save them. It's not the case, unfortunately, in most American corporate cultures. So work on yourself. I mean, we're all contractors. We're all working for ourselves. Alright, I gotta get to work. Cost summary. $22 shipping? Fun to live across the world. Yeah, that's actually something that the 4-hour work week talks about. The idea that you get more out of life if you get to do more of the things you want from where you want. So, it's full of stories of people who have changed their work to be remote and then just gone to Italy. Like, now I live in Italy and I do my work. Like, just that adds value. So, it's interesting. Alright, guys. Get to work here. Just remember what I said. Just keep the perspective.